And I got a couple quick questions on this early Friday morning before you take off and enjoy your fun day at work. Are you ready?
I think I am. I've been ready since 5 o'clock.
Recently, I'd read locally about a friend of mine who was doing some renovations on his house. He had to get a bunch of different permits. It was driving him nuts. Everything was electronic. He didn't really understand. He hadn't did this. And, as we age, us old guys, we tend to think, why the hell is everything changing? But anyway, Pro Builder Inspection, would you help with those permits? Would you talk to this person? Like, is that something that your company can do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. On the PBI side of things, that's a great avenue for one of these, inexpensive phone call services that we have, or even a Zoom service, because it doesn't necessarily. I mean, I can come and sit in front of you, but it generally can be done pretty inexpensively. And again, we're not there to necessarily do the job for you. We're just there to. I mean, when it comes to Pro Builder Inspection side of things, we're there just to help you and guide you, kind of thing. That's the name of the game with that end of the service. So the permit process it can be a sticky one. I often actually try to really lean on customers to do it themselves. As much of a pain in the butt as it is, they get a way better understanding of what they're getting into, both with the city and with their contractor or themselves. Because I mean, a lot of these permit pulls that people are doing are for their own projects that they're going to DIY, which is like fantastic. But they don't know how to get through, the red tape. And every municipality and every county is a little different. And it's nice to have somebody that is localish, that's at least been through one or two of each municipality, within 50 to 100 miles, kind of thing, and kind of give you some tips on how to get through it without spending 7 months in permit.
Yeah, because I think that's the other part too. Is you gotta fill it in, you gotta get it in, it's got to be approved, right? And it can go back and forth. Where Pro Builder Inspection could maybe save those middle steps, right?
Yeah.
No, you can't do it this way. This is what this is the way you've got to look at it. If you just even you saying a simple line like that makes life a lot easier, because to the average guy, he might not even understand, right? Like his concept of what they're looking for, whereas you do so many, and like you said, it varies from county to county, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's the thing with the inspection, or not the inspections, I'm sorry, with the permit process is that, I mean, first you got to determine whether or not you need it, right?
Yeah.
It's, I mean, and that's kind of like your starting point. You have to determine whether or not you need it. And in most cases, you would. Generally, the rule of thumb is when it becomes structural, when it involves life services, things like that, they want you to have a permit. They want you, the township, the county, the city, they want to know what's going on. But when it comes to, refacing, light remodeling, basic home repair stuff. I mean, none of that falls within the realm of permits, but it is going to determine there whether or not you need or not. And then, the second stage would be, what type of permit should I apply for? What are the tricks to get me through less complicated? Because believe me, you can easily overcomplicate it if you know what they're looking for, you can kind of design around that and apply around that, and you'll get a much quicker response.
Well, let's look at decks, right? Decks, depending on, like, that's one where it's a huge, I don't want to say gray area, but you can only build so big on your property, or, you need so much clearance and all this stuff. Like, that must be one that you've seen over the years in your business, right? With decks, I'm sure there's permits all over the place.
Yeah.
I know in Hull, Norfolk, you got to have, or Norfolk for sure, you got to have one. But is that an area where you'd be like, yeah, let's talk about, like, that's where you would come in at Pro Builder Inspection and say, well, they might say, here's the deck I want. And you're saying, look, before you even apply, I can tell you this, and this isn't going to fly, right?
It's unfortunately a it's a bit of a hard truth because, I mean, you have setbacks in every county that you're not allowed to build to X amount of distance to your property line. And then you have some square footages that, two different square footages actually, one being if you're doing a non-permitted deck, generally it's about 100-ish square feet, which you can do non-attached without a permit. It's not a problem. However, when it gets above that and it's attached to your house, like completely fixed and bolted in, that does require a permit. But sometimes you may or may not be over your lot coverage, so you need to find out, what the lot coverage is, and if you're allowed to build that monster deck you want to have, or the shed, or the this, or the that. I mean, sheds and decks are very similar square footage, what you're allowed and what you're not allowed before they really start leaning on you.
And again, that will vary from county to county depending on the property. Okay, my second question is, this was one I had seen online recently through social media, and it was a lady who was complaining she had her washroom renovated, but it was not very nicely done. It was a mess. So she wanted to bring in another contractor, and they wouldn't touch it for liability reasons. Let's walk through this and see what you could do to help. I mean, this is a scenario that you've probably come across where somebody's called you up and said, hey, would Pro Builder Inspection go in and say, well, here's what we need to do, or here's what needs to happen to clear that liability? That liability issue. Like, I don't know, like what, and sometimes people wouldn't even know that it was a crap job, right? And all of a sudden things start falling apart. But is that something Pro Builder, would you go, obviously it would be nice if they called you first, you could go in and say, here's what you can do. Right. But this has already happened, so they've already got this mess. Yeah. What happens with you? How do you help them?
Well, I mean, there's tons of good contractors. There's tons of bad contractors out there. And, there are stuff that for whatever reason, whether it be just poor workmanship, the relationship falls apart, which, I mean, to be honest with you, I see a lot of the relationship falling apart, more so because of what is expected and what is actually doable. And for customers out there, just a quick note from the other side perspective. I mean, you really have to get clear in those initial meetings, and this is a great thing for the Pro Builder thing as well, to outside of the contracting part. And that's why that service is great, because it has nothing to do with committing to a contract, committing to work, any of these kind of things, right? You can kind of get a lot of the stuff aired out prior to anything happening. So, you want to get pretty clear on what the situation is, and then every time that you add something, it can drastically change things, and you may not think that it should or it could, but I mean, in this day and age, we're running on 15 to 30 day, estimates. And after that, I mean, we get hit with it all the time. We get a price increase. I mean, we get them daily. We get a price increase. We get a price decrease. I mean, right now we're getting a little bit of lumber decreases right now, but we're getting concrete increases and things like that. So anyways, my point is that, some of these relationships fall apart because of X went up. Somebody gets upset. They leave for whatever, right? So, something happens where the workmanship starts to slip for whatever reason. I often hear these little tidbits. Something fell apart in this guy's life. Something fell apart. And then, the lack of the effort kind of, folds in a little bit. So whatever the reason may be, and I've heard 10 million of them, had to use a few myself. But anyways, at some point, these people need their house back, regardless of the state that it's in. And I hate to say it, but I do this more often than not. I did one this week on a fairly substantial sized job that is at a stop point. And I think I've done one every couple of weeks. I can't even remember, for 8-9 months straight. So what we go in.
So this is what you're talking about, is just fixing up other people's messes.
Yeah, fixing.
Going in and saying, okay, we can fix this. Here's what we got to do. Oh, wow.
And then, so then we to get away from the liability point. And I mean, I actually try to look at the stuff that they did right. I'm not in, I can see what they did wrong. If the customer can see what they did wrong, so can I. I mean,
Right.
that's usually where the starting point is, right? So I'm looking at, okay, like, what did they do right? And what can we save here? And then let's fix the stuff that's really bad. And then if the other stuff is right, I mean, I'm not going to do the TV show setup and just tear it out, because I mean, at that point, if it's right, it's fine, right? Let's just build off of that. And then, so then we just get past that point of wrong. And then once it's into the right side of things, then it's all me anyway, or all the contractor, or whoever is doing the fix.
One word that you said in there that I thought was critical, that you and I have talked about this before, and I don't think it's stressed enough, is communication.
Right.
You nailed it. Like, I mean, if you're not fully aware of what you want, trying to explain it to you, how the hell am I going to get my point across, right? Like, I mean, you've really got to know what you want and then go from there, because you can't just describe it. I can't just sit here and say to you, well, I want this wall to be green. Well, you can't put that wall there, or, that wall come out. But I think that's the point. I don't think what I like about Pro Builder Inspection is you're actually educating the customer before you even do anything, or before anybody else does anything to their home, so they understand what they can get done. And I think that's going to drive your service crazy, because that's what people need. That's a huge benefit in the construction industry, what you guys are doing.
Yeah, no, it's I think so. When we're on the elevation home sides of things, obviously I do these things for people because it's my job that we're attempting to land, or that they're contracting us in, or whatever it might be. But on the service side, on the Pro Builder side, I mean, it really has nothing to do whether we get the job or not. I mean, we might be consulting on somebody, somebody's brother that's coming in to do it, and they just need to know a few ins and outs so that they can do it, properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is great for that, because it's the stress-free side of things. Yes, you can, if you don't like my answers, I mean, you're more than welcome to get pissed off at me. That's fine, but that's where it stops. It doesn't have to go any further, because at least right?
Well, it gives them the opportunity to have a second opinion. Like, they've already formed what they think they want to do. And before somebody comes in and, says, oh yeah, I can do that, you're going to be in there saying, well, they could, but here's a better idea, or here's something you might want to consider. And I think that's the precipice of this whole business. You want to make sure that they're doing it's done right, and it's the best quality they can get for their money.
Yeah. No,
I think that's what it boils down to.
And I really don't mind throwing out these ballpark prices, but I mean, they're not quotes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I can give people a range of what something's going to be within, $25,000 or $30,000. But, again, you got to keep in mind that there's a lot of details involved in that ballparking, and one small detail can throw a huge amount of money. And folks, you can't get shocked by that. I mean, if you're doing a kitchen and you go from MDF doors that are painted to, a solid hardwood door that is also painted, will they look any different when it's done? Probably not. But I mean, you've now spent yourself $10,000 more, and you will look at the exact same door. It'll be a little sturdier, there's no doubt. But at the end of the day, visually, it won't matter. Like the hardwood door and that, if it's painted, it's painted. So, but I mean, that's a decision that I get a lot. I mean, that's just one example that and then people get quite uppity about it. But meanwhile, it's a small tweak, and sometimes the small tweaks end up being huge bucks.
Wow. All right. It's Friday morning. Justin's got to go to work, folks. Thanks for taking the time and answering these questions. Hopefully we'll get together soon. Keep the crew busy. I know you guys are going to be going from dusk to dawn.
Yeah.
So enjoy the sun while you got it, and take care. Okay,
Thanks,
bud?
Dave.